Hello and welcome to In Conservation, a podcast of the Wildlife Trust for Beds, Cambs and Northants. My name is Sophie Baker and I'm the editor of our members magazine Local Wildlife and host of the podcast. This episode is all about bats. I joined my colleague and bat enthusiast Gwen Hitchcock on a scouting mission around our Strawberry Hill Nature Reserve, looking for suitable spots to set up for an evening of bat monitoring. While we walked, we talked about all things Chiroptera. That's their scientific name, which, as you'll find in the podcast, quite suitably means hand wing in Greek. We touched upon what makes a good habitat for bats, why we monitor them, and what their individual echolocation clicks and noises sound like to the human imagination. Bats are a truly fascinating subject matter, and some of the top facts revealed here are almost unbelievable. If you'd like to support our work looking after our reserves, which benefits bats and a huge host of other wildlife, please do consider donating to our Wilder Future Fund at wildlifebcn.org/Wilder Future Fund. Over to Strawberry Hill. So we're here at Strawberry Hill, and what is it we're actually looking for?
So we're going to be scoping out locations to do some bat trapping surveys that we're going to be doing next month. So bats are quite an elusive creature. We don't really know what's going on with them unless we specifically look for them. And we've done lots of acoustic surveys here. We've had static bat detectors out across the site. We've done evening transect walks with volunteers. This detects us listening and recording. And we know we've got a good number of species that use the site, but we'd like to get even more information. And the only way to get some of the species is to have them in the hand.
Yes.
And that's why we're going to try trapping them.
Right, and we're here. It's a sort of late summer. Feels autumnal to me already, but yeah, late
Depends
summer.
which day it is. Some days feel autumnal, some feel very much summer. It's a bit hit and miss at the moment.
Yeah, that's true. And so when will you be doing these transects?
So the trapping survey we're looking at doing about mid-September.
Oh, right, yeah.
We've done transects. We've done 3 transects so far this year. Mm-hmm. We did an early one at about May, and the last one we did just last week.
Right, amazing. And what is it you're looking for when you're doing that? In the sense that, I mean, obviously you're looking for bats, but I mean, are you trying to figure out their behaviour or just what's here, or?
A bit of both, really. So the static detectors give us a good idea of what species we've got, and can give us patterns in how frequently they come through. But obviously a static detector is just one location, one time. The transect surveys are quite good because you can walk around the site and you get a feel for which areas might be busier than others. But again, you're only just looking at a snapshot on that one evening. So using the combination of those gives us a lot of information. But there are some species that you don't pick up much on the detectors, or also that you can't really identify very well. So the myotis group of bats, their calls all sound very similar. And if you get a nice clear call, you can sometimes identify the species. But often you just get a quick pass and you're like, oh, it's not great quality, I'm not really sure. It's one of this group.
Yeah, okay. So some people can identify the bat calls from the sonographs as well, is that right?
Yeah, so that's what we do. We record the stuff and then back in the office, we've got a team of volunteers that help go through the bat sonograms and find what we've got.
Yeah, so it's not all just doing it by ear on the day, because like you say, some of them be very quick flybys, I would imagine.
Yeah, so we use a combination, because again, the bat detectors are very directional. So it could be that you've got one pointing one way, one the other way. Sometimes you'll pick something up in the field that just hasn't recorded for some reason, and vice versa. So using the combination techniques, we get more information. But even looking at the sonograms, it sometimes can be difficult to distinguish the myotis groups.
Yeah.
So by trapping them, we can catch the bats in the hand. Hopefully we'll get the myotis bats, and then we'll be able to identify exactly which species we've got on site.
Aha. Yeah, that's amazing. So sometimes you just need them in the hand, and so we're going to be scoping out some sites that would be good for that. Is that right?
We are, yeah. So we actually did some trapping here last year, and we got some really good results. We managed to catch 3 whiskered bats, which is a species of myotis bat that we don't catch. We don't have that many records of because they're very hard to distinguish by call.
Right.
Even if you get a clear call, the whiskered and the bounce bat sound quite similar. And even in the hand, they can look very similar. So we also take a DNA sample usually to confirm.
How do you do that? How do you take a DNA sample of a bat? That's amazing.
You collect the droppings.
Ah, right,
you put them
okay,
in a little holding bag, and you hope they have to go before they fly off.
You know, there's all sorts of things you have to do as as an employee of the Wildlife Trust. Yeah, amazing. Yeah.
So we're going to see if we can get some more Maybe look to see what other species we're finding. But also having them in hand, you can tell that you can identify the sex of the bat, you can identify the age, if it's an adult or juvenile, you can identify breeding condition. So it just tells us a little bit more about the populations that are using the site. Yeah, so if we get lots of male bats in breeding condition, so bats breed about this time of year in the autumn.
Ah, right.
So we get lots of male bats in breeding condition.
That feels quite unusual for animals to be breeding in the autumn.
It is. It's a really clever strategy. So the bats breed about this time, starting from September through into October. So they breed then, and then the females store the sperm until the spring.
Wow.
So bats hibernate. They're one of the few mammals in the UK that actually does do true hibernation.
Yeah.
So they go to sleep all the winter. It's not true sleep, but you know what I mean. And then when they wake up, they need to fasten themselves up and get breeding quickly.
Right.
You kind of need. And by storing the sperm over the winter, it just allows the females to hit the ground running a bit. They don't need to worry about having that mating stage at the start of the year. You've already done that. You can focus on getting your energy levels up, gestating your baby, giving birth, go.
Yeah, that's extraordinary, isn't it?
Very clever, isn't it?
It is really clever.
Bats have a lot of interesting adaptations. So they're the only mammal with true flight.
Yeah.
So we get things like flying squirrels, but they glide. They don't do powered flight, so they have to go up high, and then they can control the descent. Whereas bats have true powered flight, so they can go up, down, sideways, every which way.
Yeah.
Some of them will even hover, like a hummingbird.
Really?
Yeah. So some of the bats will drink nectar, so they'll do exactly like a hummingbird, can hover in front of the flower to drink it.
Wow. So that's is that co-evolving? Is that like a sort of a similar trait that's evolved separately?
Yeah, for the same purpose.
Yeah, and there's a moth that does that as well, isn't there?
It's very cool.
Yeah.
I love the way all these creatures have got the same problem to solve, and they come up with similar solutions in slightly different ways.
That's the hummingbird hawk moth, isn't it? I've seen a couple of those already this year. They're amazing to watch.
I haven't seen any this year, but they are amazing to see.
Yeah. So I didn't realise. I feel like bats have a lot of really interesting characteristics, and I think in some ways they have a bit of a bad reputation with people, you know, the sort of vampire bats, or people. I sort of sometimes hear people have a fear of them flying into their faces, or you know, things like that. But I mean, they really are extraordinary creatures, and there's no danger from them, is there? Especially in this country.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting thing. There's a lot of misconceptions about bats, and it's really interesting because that sort of fear of bats is sort of very much a Western sort of tradition. You sort of go to a place like China and actually see it as a good luck sign.
Ah, okay, yeah.
It's very much a cultural thing, and I think it's evolved because they're nocturnal. You don't get a good look at them; they just sort of appear and are gone again. And even now, there's a lot of questions we don't know about bats. Again, because they're quite elusive, they come out at night, they travel long distances. You know, they're about the size of mice, some of them, and they will travel several kilometres in a night.
Wow, yeah.
And use several different roosting sites. So there's still a lot of unanswered questions. And I think coming out at night and just not knowing about them just made people scared, didn't know what was going on.
And I think a lot of them have roosted in churches, haven't they? So there's I feel like there's sort of an association with graveyards as well, which maybe doesn't help matters in people's imagination.
Possibly, but I always like to think of all creatures great and small when they're roosting in the churches.
Yeah. Yeah.
Part of the creation. I'm Gwen Hitchcock. I'm Senior Monitoring and Research Officer for the Wildlife Trust for Beds, Camps and Northants. And basically that means me and my team are responsible for coordinating and carrying out lots of different surveys across our reserves to find out what condition they're in, what species we have there, and to feed back into reserve management plans from that.
Yeah. And would you say you love bats?
I do love bats. Bats are amazing. I think they're my favourite group of animals. And part of the reason for that is there's still a lot we don't know. They're still amazing to see. Every time I see them, I still get excited.
Yeah.
And they're one of the few mammals we've got in the UK, especially small mammals, that aren't that scared of humans.
Wow.
So if you go out and do a survey, if you stand quietly with your torch off, then most animals would either hide or run away. Bats get curious, they come and have a look at you.
Oh,
I've seen them bat flight past and they go past and do a little circle back on land and then go off again. Because I think they go, "You're new, that wasn't there last night."
How fascinating.
It's brilliant.
Yeah, that's amazing to be considered by a bat. I mean, that must happen to you quite a lot then, I suppose, if you're out doing these, surveying and and things. Yeah, how extraordinary. What else is it you love? I mean, do you do other work with bats as well in terms of your own research and things?
So I'm also a member of the local bat group, the Bedfordshire Bat Group. I do a lot of volunteer work with them, run some surveys, try and get more people involved. And we've also got a few collaborations within the Wildlife Trust with the local bat groups. So we've got the link to the Bedfordshire Bat Group for myself. We've also got links to the Cambridgeshire Bat Group. We do some surveys together. And again with the Nen Valley Bat Group.
Yeah.
So it's really useful that we can all work together across a wider area as we sort of combine our efforts for bat conservation.
Yeah. And so why is it important that we monitor them then on our reserves? Because I guess you don't just do it at Strawberry Hill, do you? No,
we monitor them across a lot of our reserves, particularly the woodlands and the wetland sites, which are the key bat habitats that we've got. For starters, it's good for us to know what species are using our reserves. It's a useful thing for us to know what's there.
Yeah.
But bats are also quite a good indicator of habitat quality, both at the local scale of the reserve, but also in the wider landscape scale. Because they travel quite long distances, they won't just be using our reserve, they'll be using the wider landscape. So it tells us a bit about what's in that, about the connectivity of the landscape, and that the general habitat is good.
Yeah, and that they're able to sort of thrive in a wider area. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's some key species that are very much specialists. So you get things like the barbstell that really like those old woodlands. They need older trees, less flaky bark, grot holes, things like that to roost in. So it can tell us a bit about the condition of the site where we get them.
Yeah. Yeah, because of course they don't just roost in old buildings. I mean, they're sort of associated with that, aren't they? But in the wild, they roost in all sorts of nooks and crannies. And like you say, they're really small, so they must be able to get in quite small cracks.
Yeah. So our smallest bats in the UK is the common soprano pipistrelle. And they're, I would say, if you hold your hand up, they're about, from head to tail, the width of 2 fingers.
Wow, that's small.
Absolutely tiny in the hand.
Wow, that's amazing.
I've seen them neatly fit inside a matchbox.
Wow.
I think they weigh about the same as a 20p piece. Wow. Somewhere.
And that's extraordinary.
They're absolutely tiny animals.
And so yet still travelling so far.
They'll travel several kilometres in a night.
Yeah, amazing.
It depends a little bit on the habitat they're in and how close all the resources are. That's how far they'll go from the roost, and obviously then within the night they'll be going backwards and forwards. Because they feed on the wing. So obviously all that time they're feeding, they have to be flying.
Yeah, so feed on the wing. Yes, not all bats do that, do they? But I guess, most bats do. I don't know.
The majority of bats do. The ones we've got in this country will.
Yeah.
So most of the bats will catch insects in flight, either just directly with the mouth. Some will use the tail as a bit of a scoop.
Oh, wow, really?
Things like the brown long-eared bat, so it will also pick insects off leaves. So as the name suggests, they've got very long ears, they've got very good hearing.
Yeah.
And they can sometimes hear the insects walking on the leaves, walking on the vegetation.
Wow. And
they're one of our bats that can sort of almost hover and swing in and pick them off.
Yeah. Does that have a special word?
Called gleaning.
Gleaning. Yeah, I thought it would. That's one of those things that I thought that must have a special word. What a nice word that is, actually, gleaning.
It is a good word, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we've also got the Dobenson's bat that will pick up invertebrate prey off the surface of the water.
Right.
So you'll quite often see them if you've got a calm river or lake. Sit out in the evening and watch. You'll quite often see bats flying just above the surface of the water.
Yeah.
Just looking like they're skimming the water, and that's exactly what they're doing. They're picking off insects from the surface to eat. Yeah,
that's amazing. I think I've seen those going on one of our bat punts.
Yeah.
That's on the River Cam that we run every year with Scudamores, and they're amazing. That's an amazing opportunity to see Dorbentons in particular, just because you're kind of gliding slowly along the river.
Yeah, and you're at the right height there to sort of be on the same height and watch them.
Yes.
It's a truly magical experience to sort of get up close and see them.
Yeah. Events-wise, we do actually run quite a lot of events, don't we, for people to kind of experience bats and bat detectors, because it's quite an expensive bit of kit to have on your own as an amateur.
It is, yeah. It's always worthwhile if it's something you're interested in going out on these events, either with ourselves or even with the local bat groups, because we do a lot of collaboration work with those. So we run various guided bat walks where people can listen, and you said we do the bat punts on the River Cam.
Yeah.
We also sometimes do training workshops for bat ID if people want to get a little bit more technical about what they're doing. And of course we've got our wonderful volunteers that help us do our surveys.
Yes, and a lot of what we do in monitoring and research in general relies on a kind of big team of volunteers, doesn't it?
It really does. We're a very small team within the Trust, our monitoring research team. And obviously we've got a lot of reserves we want to monitor.
Yeah, three whole counties to cover between you as well.
Yeah, we cover a lot of ground. We wouldn't be able to do any of it, well, anywhere near as much without our wonderful volunteers helping us. So we've got volunteers that come along to events. We've also got volunteers that help lead some of the surveys for us, which just, takes away that time pressure on us.
Yeah.
We've got volunteers helping to lead the events.
Yeah, and can people get involved with that if they're listening and they're thinking, oh?
Yeah, they can. Yeah. If they can check out our website on our volunteering page. We've got information on the monitoring research, and we've got our ecology group's email address that they can just drop a line to, and we'll get back to them about that.
Yeah.
Depending on when this goes out, winter is our quieter time for volunteering, so we're getting to the end of our survey season now. They'll be starting up again in the new year.
Yes, yeah. Monitoring these species, you must come up with a lot of data. So a big part of the job must be that side of it as well, is it? Sort of crunching the data?
It is. That's our winter job.
Yeah.
Both in winter, I'm mostly glued at the computer, looking at lots of spreadsheets and bat sonograms and all sorts, trying to figure out what the hell's going on our sites.
Yeah, because it's a big job, isn't it? I mean, because even something like a static, you were saying before, static recorders, that, but that means they're on all the time, which means they're recording all the time, which means you have
get thousands of files sometimes to go through.
Yeah.
And we've got wonderful volunteers in the office that help go through them. We couldn't get through the backlog without them.
No, that's really interesting. So volunteering doesn't just have to be out in the field. If that's not doesn't tickle your fancy, there is a lot to do in the back office as well, really.
Yeah, we've got something for everyone.
So what is it so special about Strawberry Hill then? Is it particularly special for bats, or is that what you're actually trying to discover at the moment?
Well, from what we've found so far, it is an important site for bats, but it's also quite an interesting site for bats. So at Strawberry Hill, we've got a lot of this young and mature scrub. We don't have really many old trees, which are the trees that provide breeding opportunities for bats.
Right, yeah.
So there's not a lot of breeding opportunities on site. But from the static detectors and the surveys we've done, there's a lot of bat species using the site. We've currently recorded 11 of the 12 species in the county using the site.
Wow. What's the only one you haven't recorded?
We haven't recorded the Brandt's bat yet, which is one of the myotis bats.
Okay, yeah. So is that one of the ones that's hard to discern, isn't it?
Yeah, that's one of the ones that's very hard to distinguish from the calls alone. So they may well be here.
Yeah.
But what's interesting about the site is that I think a lot of the bats don't live here full time. I think a lot of them using it to pass through. I think they're roosting in some of the woodlands nearby. So Strawberry Hill is really nicely situated along a ridge that contains quite a few old woodlands. And we know that we've got some good bat populations in some of those, not too far away. So I suspect what happens is they're coming from there, moving through, using Strawberry Hill both as a commuting site and a feeding ground. Yeah. And then moving off to other places. Yeah. And that would also explain why our results are quite sporadic. Some nights we get lots of activity, some nights we get hardly anything. And I expect it just depends on where the insects are and where the bats are choosing to go on those particular nights. Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? Because I think the scrub here is a big feature, obviously, and like you say, it's not very tall, is it? It's sort of, 3-4 metres here where we are at the moment. It's not. You don't look at this and think this is bat habitat. No. It's not what you'd expect to find lots of bats in. And the fact that we have picked up so many species, including things like barbastelle, which are a woodland specialist, and we've picked them up in quite good numbers here. That's interesting. But we also know there's not too far away in other directions, we've got some good barbastelle roosts. Yeah. So again, I suspect they're using it to move through the landscape. And it just shows the importance of a living landscape, doesn't it? That any species, it's very rare that you get a species that is, especially something that is mobile and has flight of any kind, or that even walks around, that's just going to be in one particular place. So we can't ever just look after little pockets of spaces like a nature reserve, because that's never going to be enough to support a population of bats, is it? They need all kinds of things. Yeah, they need that wide landscape and they need the connectivity through it. Yeah. For bats, things like hedgerows and tree lines and watercourses are all really important navigational features. Right, yeah. So they use them from above to kind of navigate. And I would imagine there's probably also more insects hanging around there as well. Yeah, you can pick up a nice snack as you're on your way. Yeah. And do things predate bats in flight as well? Are they looking for cover in that way, or is that not really a...
a thing.
So nighttime birds, so your owls, will get about if they can. Some of the bats will come out just before sunsets, especially in high summer, and sunsets are late. So then, of course, you might get some of the daytime predatory birds getting them. Actually, one of the biggest dangers to bats are domestic cats.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Especially if you get things like the pipistrelles that roost in buildings. If a cat works out where they're coming from, it can just sit on the top of a wall and swipe them as they come out.
Oh, wow. So even catching them from midair. Wow.
So if you have a cat, it's quite good to keep them in at night.
Yeah.
Just gives the wildlife a bit of a chance to have a break.
Yeah, absolutely. What else can people do for bats in their own sort of spaces? Because obviously, they need a big space. They travel really far, but part of that connectivity must be people's gardens in some instances.
It is, yeah. And a lot of it is the same advice we give for all wildlife. So the main thing we can do for bats, if you've got a small urban garden, just make sure you've got some good diversity of plants and habitats to encourage the invertebrates, which of course are then bat food. So the bats can come in and forage and feed. If you've got a bit more space, having some water, because bats will need to drink, and they will come down to ponds to drink.
Oh, that's amazing. You don't think of that, do you? You put a pond in and you sort of see it during the day and, you think frogs and then you think birds having a bath, but I wouldn't have sort of taken that leap, thinking, well, bats need to drink too. They must. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And with the new technology we've got now thermal cameras and infrared cameras are much more common and prevalent. Using those, you can watch the bats even, in pitch black, and you can see the bats flying around and occasionally dipping down to have a drink and then flying off again.
Wow.
But yeah, the other thing people can potentially do at home is put bat boxes up.
Yeah. So, but bats are protected, aren't they? So I know that I've heard people who kind of worry that if they put a bat box up and then bats are resident in it, that then means they can't do anything with that bat box, like they can't take it down or remove it. Is that true?
It is true. So bats are a protected species, which means you can't kill, injure or disturb a bat. And that also protects their places of rest, which includes bat roosts. Yeah. So if you are putting a bat box up, think carefully about where you're siting it. Yeah. But in most cases, there's no real reason to take a bat box down once you put it up.
No, it doesn't need cleaning or anything, does it? In the same way that some bird boxes might do. But
yeah. So just choose a situation where it's not going to get in the way of anything you want done.
Yeah. Do we put bat boxes up in our reserves? Is that something we do?
We do on some of them. So we're actually planning to put some bat boxes up around this reserve at some point. Just to give them some, like I mentioned before, there's not many old trees, there's not many roosting potential. So we're just adding a little bit more in. And even if they don't use them during the daytime, they may well use them at night.
Right.
So quite a lot of bats will fly around, feed for a bit, rest for a bit, fly on again.
Yeah.
And they use lots of different roosts, so having lots of areas where they can stop is really beneficial. The benefit of bat boxes as well is that because we encourage them to roost there, we can monitor them. We can get an idea of what bat species are on the site, what condition they're in. That.
And the other thing I've seen mention of is about lighting in gardens as well, sort of at night. A lot of people have big bright lights that are sort of permanently on in their gardens at night, whether they're out there or not. Yeah. And I sort of feel like that might affect bats.
That really does, and it's a big problem, not just in gardens, but everywhere. The sort of trend that we've had of uplighting old buildings, having really bright street lights, and I know a lot of it is for safety reasons, which is great, but you can sort of plan around bats. If you make sure your lights are pointing downwards. If you think about sort of what type of lights you're using, maybe don't go for the really bright white lights, if you go for maybe a softer light, or even red lighting, if it's possible. Looking for motion sensitive lights that the motion sensitive bit is where you need it to be. So if you want security light to stop people breaking in, make sure that it goes off when someone's there, not a bat flying above your garden.
Right, yeah, so pointing the sensor. Yeah, I see what you mean, yeah.
So there's various ways you can, if you need lighting, there are various ways to work around it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the lighting, there's some species of bats will completely avoid it and stop using the area.
Oh, really? Yeah.
A few of our more common bats are sometimes opportunistic and will eat the insects around them.
Yeah, so I guess lights might attract moths and sort of various insects.
But that again can put them at risk of increased predation. Because if it's light there, things like owls can spot them
Yeah.
and go and get them.
And owls aren't daft either. If there's a habitual place where there's something to eat, then they're going to watch that place, aren't they? That's
So yeah, it's just been a bit thoughtful about when you're putting these things out, because it's not just bats that those lighting will affect, it's all other wildlife that come out at night.
Yeah.
I'll be wary of it. It's also sometimes not very pleasant for your neighbours. Our neighbours have got a bright security light that shines straight through our bedroom window.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And it's not the most pleasant thing.
No, it really isn't.
Makes me wonder why it's pointing that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's probably just inattention, isn't it, rather than sort of deliberate. But it's worth just going out in your garden and checking.
It is. Yeah, and there's things like the Bat Conservation Trust. It's a national charity that promotes bat conservation in the UK. Have got a lot of advice on their website.
Right. Yeah.
So it's a really good resource if there's anything you're unsure about regarding bats.
We know that you, our discerning listeners, are enthusiastic about the wildlife in your local area, and maybe you're looking for more ways you can help. In 2025, we launched an ambitious 5-year plan to help boost nature's recovery in Beds, Cambs and Northants. Focusing on 3 critical areas, we've got plans to put nature into recovery, help communities take action for wildlife, and work on nature-based solutions for a changing climate. We're really proud of the work we do, all of which is evidence-based and makes a real difference for the wildlife and people in our area. But nature is still in decline and needs us to do more. We know what's required, and we're desperate to step up our work, but we can't do this without your help. Our Wilder Future Fund was launched to raise £1.5 million by 2028. Can you help us reach this target? Every penny you donate will go towards our work in Beds, Cambs and Northants, and really will make a difference. Let's step up for nature and live wilder together. Visit wildlifebcn.org/Wilder Future Fund. Thank you.
I'm just going to backtrack because I want to have a look into this
Yeah,
bit.
of course. Yeah.
Because I think we might be able to put one of our nets in here for catching. It's a bit nettly, so I might not go too far in.
Yes, it's a warm day, so you're wearing shorts rather than trousers.
This was a bad idea, I think.
Is there a little stream down there at some point normally? It looks a bit dry today.
It's completely dry because we've had such a hot year.
Yeah.
But there's normally a little stream down here. But you can see those 2 trees there that have got a gap that's just a bit bigger than my arm span.
Yes, I can, yeah.
That's sort of the right size gap for putting what we call a hub trap. If you see one, they're well named. They're basically a big metal frame.
Yeah.
With either 2 or 3 banks of what's effectively fishing wire hung vertically down, and a collection bag at the bottom. Then if the bats fly along, don't see the strings, fly into them, doesn't harm them at all. They just sort of slide down into the holding bag at the bottom where they sit comfortably until we can come collect them, identify what species, if they're male or female, if they're young or old, have they bred, are they about to breed, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's sort of the gap we're looking for.
I see. And so these are willows?
Yeah, these are willows.
Yeah, so it's I guess it looks like a little gap that a bat would invitingly fly through quite sort of habitually almost, especially if it's over a stream, because like you were saying, there's probably insects gathering here.
And we can increase our odds. So this is all done under licence. We have a project licence from Natural England.
Yeah.
Tracking bats to find out more about what's happening in our reserves.
Yeah, and you do have to have a licence to handle bats. I mean, that's really important. Yeah.
Even just to disturb them, even just shining a torch in a bat box on a bat requires a licence. And as part of the licence, we're allowed to use acoustic lures. So basically, we play bat calls.
Yeah.
And the bats come to see what's going on. And it just increases the odds of catching the bat slightly.
Yes. Yeah, but I guess it has to be fishing wire or something really fine, because otherwise they would be able to detect it, wouldn't they? Because their sonar is really quite amazing.
Yeah, it's one of the things that's amazing about bats is that they use the echolocation to such an advanced degree. And there's other mammals that use echolocations. Dolphins are one of the prime examples that we think of, but also small mammals like shrews.
Really?
Shrews have a very basic echolocation system they can use.
Oh, wow.
Fascinating. And so bats will be able to use that, and they use it to navigate around, to identify their prey, And you think about it, they're basically shouting really loudly.
Yeah.
So they shout really loudly at a very high frequency, so higher than humans can hear.
Mm-hmm.
And then they listen for the echo to come back. And from that echo, they can work out where something is and what it is. And if you think about, I've mentioned before, bats are very small. Our smallest bats, like I mentioned, sort of the width of 2 fingers. Our largest bats is just the width of 4 fingers.
Right.
Width you sit on your palm.
And what species
So
is
that's
that?
the noctule bat. That's the largest in the UK. And even that is not very big as things go. And they're eating small prey, and some of the pips will sort of eat midges and tiny mosquitoes.
Wow, that's small.
If you think the echolocation can identify that in flight and allow them to catch them.
Wow.
That's sort of the fine scale that they've got.
Yeah.
And different bats use slightly different echolocation calls. And that's one of the ways we can identify them when they're in flight. So by the frequency of call they use. So some of the larger bats that fly and hunt in open areas have lower echolocation calls. Some of the other bats have got higher echolocation calls.
I guess that stops them confusing each other's as well.
Potentially. I imagine that they can identify their own shout. So I've been places where you've got lots of bats all calling. They must be able to identify.
Yeah, that's true.
Think about lots of people talking. You'd be able to identify your own voice.
Yes, yeah.
In the
You're
crowd.
right, yeah.
But also the shape of the calls. So different, it gets very technical, but basically different call shapes help you in different ways.
Right.
And by looking at the shape of the call and the frequencies they're using, we can identify which are the different species.
Yeah.
And if you go out on a bat survey, we'll usually have what we call a Hetzstein bat detector, which is the most basic kind we have. And that just, all the bat detectors that we take on the walk basically just allow us to hear those echolocation calls at an audible frequency. But the type of the sound also lets you know what bat it is.
Right.
So we tend to describe the pipistrelle bats as having a wet slapping noise. Whereas things like the myotis have a more tick, 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 tick noise.
Right.
It's been described like machine gun fire when it's very loud, or like stubble burning if it's quieter. Some of them have a more knocking noise, like knock, knock. It all sounds crazy as I'm walking along, but if you get on the bat survey, I promise you it'll make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't sound crazy, but it is. But it does sound quite technical. But I think, having been on a bat pump myself, as somebody who is definitely not a bat expert, you do get your ear in quite quickly if you've got somebody who's helping, who can point things out to you. It's kind of like learning birdsong, isn't it? It feels very intimidating at the beginning, but actually you do get your ear in if you're paying attention.
And the benefit is we've got a lot fewer species to learn than we do with birds.
Very true.
So in the UK, we've only got 18 bat species.
Oh right, okay. Yeah.
And within our Bedfordshire, Cambs, Northants area, we've only got 12.
Yeah.
That we know of so far.
Yeah, there's always that
always
chance.
a chance we might get some more move in.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like a manageable size of the species to start learning.
Yeah, definitely. And also, one of the facts that stays in my head from the bat punt is about because they're shouting so loudly that they don't want to deafen themselves when they're listening back to the echo, which is a lot more faint. So they have this, is it a muscle, like an amazing muscle that sort of almost shuts their ears off when they're shouting?
Yeah, they're basically able to turn off their ear so that, like you say, they don't deafen themselves.
Yeah, I just think that is amazing. Imagine that, just being able to turn your ear off. But it must happen so quickly though as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about the timescales involved, the mind sort of starts, it's very hard to comprehend it.
Yeah.
It's something that I just can't imagine what it's like to navigate the world by sound like that.
Yeah, it is extraordinary. Yeah, it's very, like you say, very hard to actually imagine it happening because they must be the number of clicks they're doing even in a second. And if every time they're shouting, they're closing their ear. I mean, that's just extraordinary to think how quickly all of that must be happening sort of instinctively. And
just the speed that those echoes are coming back and that they're able to analyse what's going on in that time and make decisions. If you watch bats in flight, they are very fast little animals. It's, really astounding. So one of my other fun facts about bats, I mentioned before that they're the only mammal with true flight. Yeah. And they fly by the power of jazz hands. Jazz hands. Which is one of my favourite facts about bats. And it sounds insane. So the bat wing is basically arm and hand. So they've got the bones of the arm, and then the bones of the hand fingers make up the wing, hold out the wing membrane.
Right.
So if you hold your hand out with your fingers out,
Yeah.
you can hold them like that, with all the fingers close together. You can spread them all out. You can sort of cup them round, and you can sort of open them back.
Yeah.
And there's a lot, if you sort of play around with it, there's a lot of shape you can make just using your fingers.
Yeah.
Now imagine your fingers were super long and had membrane between them, and just think about all the different shapes you could make. And that's where the versatility in bat flight comes from.
Yeah, that's amazing.
They're able to sort of change the shape of their wing as they go, which is something that birds aren't able to do with their feathers.
No, of course.
And it just gives them a lot of flexibility in flight.
Yeah, and also feel, because if it's skin that's between all of your fingers, that's going to have nerve endings and blood supply, isn't it? So that you're going to actually feel the wind.
Yeah, it must be such a wonderful sensation to be able to fly.
Yeah, it must be, with your jazz hands.
With your jazz hands. So yeah.
No, that's
so
true.
You do jazz hands, you can pretend you're a bat.
Yeah.
And obviously, sort of, you can then change it so you can have wings that are long and thin, open fast flights, and wings that are stubby and wide, which are really good for manoeuvrability flights, sort of in dense vegetation. And we have bats that do both. So some of our bigger bats, like our nocturals and our serotines and our lysolus bats, so our 3 big bats, will fly in quite open habitat, quite fast and straight and up. And at the other end of the scale, so you've got things like your brown long ears that are very much hug the edge of the vegetation as they fly. Like I mentioned, they'll glean the insects off the vegetation. So they use those sort of wings that will allow them to fly intricately between vegetation without crashing.
Yeah.
And if you think about how they navigate, there is no way they're going to crash into a person. People get worried they're going to fly into them or get caught in their hair. Something will have to be very badly wrong with a bat before it will get that confused. Maybe a young one that's still learning.
Yeah, at a push, but
yeah,
even
if you think
still...
about how big a human is compared to the habitat they navigate and the prey they look for, they know you're there. They're not going to want to fly into you.
No. And if they fall to the floor, presumably they can get back up, and can they launch off the floor, or do they have to launch from a height?
Not all bat species can.
Interesting.
Most of them will have to crawl up something, but they're fairly good at crawling and climbing.
Yeah, I guess if their wings are hands, then they've got some dexterity to move
They do,
with them.
and they've got a thumb that sticks out. So the 4 fingers sort of make up the wing, but then the thumb separate. So by folding the fingers' wings in, they can use their arm and their thumb. It's a shame people can't see this.
I know.
We're both there with our little thumbs pretending to climb a tree.
Yeah. Yeah.
And quite a lot of bats will sort of land on a tree and then scurry up into their roosting hole. So quite a few of the bat boxes, sort of you see the wooden bat boxes around, will have like a little landing platform below.
Oh, yeah, that's what that is.
Scurry up in.
Yeah, it's funny because I do see them around, on trees, and they obviously look quite different to a bird box. They don't just have a hole at the front. And obviously not all bird boxes have that either, but so if you
have
see
the hole
that,
at the bottom, so
that's it.
They want that climbing up.
I see. Okay, that makes sense.
So the other thing, as well as the harp traps for catching bats, we use mist nets, a bit like they use for bird ringing. Okay, yeah. But just a really fine version, so the bats don't see them. And what we're kind of looking at for those is where you've got almost like a funnel effect. So if we've got here, we've got the tree, so many bats flying along here will have to come down to go under these branches. Yes. So if we put a net, we sort of trim some of this back a bit and put a net in across here. This will help, the surrounding vegetation will help hide the edges of the net. And we should be able to get one in. Yeah, and this looks like there's some quite tasty plums on this tree. Is it plums? Some yellow ones, some red ones, and some purple ones. Some kind of prunus. Yeah. Are they tasty? They are quite tasty. Yeah, they do look really tasty. It's been a good year for plums. One of the advantages of working outside in the autumn. Yeah, especially somewhere where there's so much kind of scrub and that kind of species, isn't there? And all within reach as well. I have to say though, those willow trees are not looking very foliated. I think it's just this year. A lot of trees have started losing their leaves early this year. Yeah. Just because it's been so dry. It has been very dry. Just kind of given up and started dropping them early. Yeah. I remember noticing some of the leaves were turning back in July. Wow. And it was just insane. And do you think that affects the bats? Drought? It must do. It affects all our creatures really, because we all need water to survive. And everything in the UK has sort of evolved in quite a wet environment. It's quite a wet habitat. Yeah. So when we have these drought years, everything suffers that a bit more. Yeah. There's national surveys that are done in a very strategic way. And, you know, those are sort of some of our best chances of seeing what's going on.
This feels like we're going into the wilds of Strawberry Hill a bit more here. I mean,
It does. This is one of the newer paths that Chantel's cut to sort of link up the main rights of way. And so it's a little bit more overgrown. We've got more of that sort of tunnel effect.
yeah.
So this would be a really good path to put some more nets along.
Yeah.
Or some hop traps.
Yeah, I can see that because the scrub is quite low, but there are some slightly larger trees that are sort of leaning over the path, which create that tunnel.
Yeah. And you sort of do these scouting missions, you come up with an idea, and then you come in the evening, it all looks completely different.
Yeah.
You change your mind.
Yeah, I hope you must be good at sort of keeping a map of a place in your head so that you can remember.
Well, we did some trapping near this area last year, so we've got a few sites that I'd like to go back to, so I know those. It's just, yeah, scoping out these new ones.
Do you do this kind of trapping on other nature reserves, like specifically the sort of the actual, like the mist
actual
nets and the
trapping.
harp nets? Yeah.
Yeah, so we do it on a few of our different reserves. Because of time commitments, we tend to only do a few sites a year. So what we've been doing is having sort of a rolling licence from Natural England that just allows us to do a few each year. It'd be nice to get round to more, but it's quite a intensive session. So we tend to set up before sunset and then go on until after midnight.
Right.
We were actually trapping with the Cambridge Bat group over in Raveley Wood.
Okay. Yeah.
It's not far from the Great Fen, back in August. And that was a really successful night. It's a really small wood, but it's actually got a lot of bat activity.
Interesting.
Size.
Yeah.
Some of the highlights, we've got some we've got a barbstell bat,
Wow.
which is a lovely, it's one of our rare bats and it's a woodland specialist. And for me, the highlight, we've got a couple of liceless bats,
Right.
which are one of our, it's not our biggest bat, but it's one of our bigger bats.
Don't think I've ever heard of that one actually.
Yeah, it's sort of like the nocturnal bat's smaller cousin,
Right.
slightly smaller cousin. It's the first time I've had them in the hand, so it's very exciting to see them up close and personal.
Yeah, that must be quite exciting, but it's quite good. I mean, how long have you been doing this kind of work?
I've been doing bat stuff pretty much as long as I can remember, to be honest. The first time I got paid to do bat surveys was actually back during university.
Yeah.
I got one of the best summer jobs in the world, which was spending several weeks radio tracking lesser horseshoe bats.
Oh, wow.
Which the horseshoe bats are amazing. We don't get them in this part of the country. They're sort of only found sort of south and west. We've got the greater horseshoe bat and the lesser horseshoe bat. As you can imagine, the greater one's bigger, the lesser one's smaller.
Yeah.
And they're the bat that typically roost hanging upside down by their feet. So you know when people draw a bat, it's hanging upside down with the feet, by the feet, hanging free.
Yeah.
That's a horseshoe bat.
Right, because most of them are tucked in little
Most
crevices.
of them sort of, hold on with their thumbs as well as their feet. So yeah, being able to see them in the roof of the barn, and then radio tracking them and finding out where they were going in the evening was fascinating.
Yeah.
But I still remember being a kid and going on a bat walk with my dad.
Yeah.
And listening to them and just getting hooked at that point. So it's, been a lifelong fascination.
So to still be having personal kind of firsts it must be quite exciting then.
It is. I just want to say, I'm very much a generalist ecologist. I get excited by everything. But bats have always had that sort of special place in my heart.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see why. They are amazing. And also when you do sort of get up close to them, they are very cute.
They are.
I mean, I think some people are put off by their kind of wavy noses and, they can look a bit sort of unusual. They're not quite as sweet as mice in that way, but I think they're just as cute, if not cuter.
It depends on the different bat species. There's some like brown long-eared.
Yeah.
I defy anyone to not call that face cute.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. And I will put some pictures on the website so that people can sort of see the difference of kind of bats up close, because that is definitely a way that you don't normally see them as a punter, as somebody kind of walking along.
It is,
You know, I see bats quite a lot where I live, flitting about in the dusk.
Yeah.
Sort of fleeting.
That's why most people normally see bats, just like, oh, was that a bat? It's going across and it's gone.
Yes. Yeah.
To actually sort of, be able to follow them and be able to see them up close and personal.
Yeah.
It's really something special. But again, that's the sort of thing you can only do under licence. Of
course.
You have to
Yeah.
get involved with the trust towards your local bat group.
Yeah.
to get involved with.
But yeah, if you go to the website wildlifebcn.org/podcast, I will put some photos up there as well. So that's another way you can get a look at them.
Excellent.
Why don't we get horseshoe bats in this part of the country? Do you know?
I don't know really. They're just very restricted distribution.
Could it be climate? I mean, might that be something that moves in as things warm up? I don't know.
Yeah. We do get bats that do migrate over from the continent. And we do get bats that occasionally get blown over from the continent. So there is a chance with climate change we might start getting more species appear, and the species we have might start spreading north.
Yeah.
So the more bat species are down in the south and west, the same as a lot of our UK wildlife. So there's a chance that with climate change, if the habitats are there, they might move over.
Yeah. So hang on, bats migrate across the sea?
They do. So there's a bat called the Nethusius pipistrelle. And I mentioned before the common and soprano pipistrelle, which are our smallest bats. The Nethusius pipistrelle is only slightly larger than those.
Yeah.
And this tiny bat can fly thousands of kilometres. The maximum, I've got it jotted down here because I knew I'd want to find it out, it's just over 2,000 kilometres.
Wow.
That was recorded having flown between London and Russia.
Wow. I mean, that's amazing, isn't it?
That's just amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. That's just extraordinary.
And this bat is only about 5 centimetres from head to tail.
Yeah.
And the wingspan's, sort of 22, 25
wow.
centimetres.
And how would they have known it was that individual bat? I guess you tag them in the same way that you can birds?
Yeah, so you can put rings on bats. It's a slightly different system to birds, but you can put rings on. And this ringing scheme with the Nethusius pipistrelle, I've been able to monitor several bats going between Europe and the UK across the sea.
Wow.
But that one's the furthest, so we get a few records from Latvia and other places along the coast there.
I mean, that's just amazing. And the fact that it's happening so often means it's not just a one-off, right? That must be something that is...
Yeah, and they've even picked them up on oil drilling platforms in the North Sea.
Oh, yeah.
Occasionally they'll be found on ships that are crossing the sea.
Wow.
And for such a tiny bat to do that journey... Yeah,
it is.
It's just amazing.
It is amazing, yeah. Do we do anything specifically on our reserves to help bats? Is there kind of management, because you're monitoring them to check how the management of our reserves is going? That's one of the reasons that you mentioned, I think. But is there anything we do specifically for bats?
It doesn't have to be anything we do specifically for bats on a general scale. What we might do is modify exactly what we do, where we do it and how we do it. We've got areas that are good for bats. For example, up at Pitsford Water Reservoir, where we've got the reserve there, there's a lot of tree work going on. We'll be doing a lot of bat monitoring around that area just to make sure that we're not disturbing them too much and that what we're doing is not going to have too bad an effect.
Yeah.
So it's things like that mainly, because a lot of our reserve management is geared to making the site in a condition that would be good for bats anyway.
Yes.
So it's just things like being mindful. If we take a tree down, if you've got a tree that's got a potential roost feature for a bat, it's got a nice old woodpecker hole, or where you get the cracks where limbs are broken, things like that. Just make sure that we leave those features in place. If we need to take them down, we get them done properly, make sure there's no bats in there.
Yeah, and because ash dieback is causing quite a lot of tree felling at the moment on many of our reserves, isn't it? For safety reasons, there are some trees that we do just have to fell, but quite a lot of them are being left as well. In my talk with Matt Hamilton around an ancient woodland in a previous episode of the podcast, he was saying that they do, actually, the dying trees are often left because they create interesting features as well.
They do, and there's those sort of older dead dying trees will have more of those rot holes, those nooks and crannies that bats will use. And not just bats, there's a range of other insects, invertebrates, other species that like those features. So that sort of standing deadwood, as we call it, and those sort of mature trees that are heading that way, where we can leave them where they're not going to cause any safety issues, it's really important to do so. And it's something that we've been trying to get out there with our advice, is don't tidy up areas too much.
Yeah.
If you can leave those sort of dying, messy bits around, do so, because they are sometimes some of the most important wildlife habitat that we have.
Yeah, because it's always a lot of the work that we do, and a lot of these chats that I have with colleagues, it's all about kind of diversity of habitat for so many different things, because you need that biodiversity and that kind of assortment of everything, you know.
You do, and it works for, it's what's best for the majority of species, the majority of groups. You sometimes get a species that is very specific, and we might try and manage a little bit of the site to keep those specific conditions. But by and large, just having that heterogeneous mix, that wide range of different habitats, things at different stages, it benefits bats, it benefits everything.
Yeah.
And so Strawberry Hill, we've mentioned before, this does not look like great bat habitat, but what it is great invertebrate habitat.
Yeah.
And bats eat invertebrates. So it just shows how sort of those things all sort of interact and mix together, and it's all so complicated. There's a lot we don't really understand about what's going on.
Yeah.
We just keep our sites in the best position we can, with as many niches and different habitats as we can. And especially with climate change, having those different niches are going to become more and more important, as things might need to sort of change how they use sites.
Yeah, so the more diversity you've got, the more opportunities creatures have to move into a slightly different area, without having to travel too far.
And also species that are moving north-south, or moving north across the country to try and escape the hotter weather. The more diversity there is along the way, the more chance they have of finding somewhere suitable. To stop off at.
Love wildlife? Feeling a bit chilly and in need of a t-shirt or jumper? Why not explore our range of sustainable clothing? Made from recycled or organic sustainably sourced cotton, our clothing is printed in the UK in a renewable energy-powered factory. And when they're worn out, you can even return them to the manufacturer to be recycled. As if this wasn't enough, we've got some brilliant wildlife designs to choose from. Show your support for our Northants beavers with a Give a Damn t-shirt. Share your love of funky beetles or hedgehogs with gorgeous illustrated designs, or spark a conversation with our fun alternative animal names tops, featuring the likes of dice beetles, spike floofs, river pigeons, hedge bandits, and the ever-charming night flaps. Visit wildlifebcn.org/shop to find out more. Every penny spent supports our work looking after the wildlife and wild places in Beds, Cams and Northants. Thank you.
Yes, this is probably another good location to put a net. Again, we've got the sort of tunnel effect.
Yes.
We can sort of hide one end in by the trees there, and another end of the net here.
Oh, right, so they're that wide, can they be?
Variable. So you get variable lengths.
Okay, so because what we're looking at there is about 8 metres, 7 or 8 metres, would that...
6. We'll probably put a 6 metre net in here.
Yeah.
Mixing it out.
Ah.
So we've got 3 metre net, 6 metres. And it goes up.
I see. Well, it must be quite a thing to see, actually, to also, because you get that fleeting when you're watching them without trapping as a sort of punter, if that's the word. They're so fleeting, but it must be quite extraordinary to see one sort of fly into your net and know that you're going to get to see what that one actually is, to get up close and personal with it.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of walking between nets and looking at empty nets. And suddenly you walk up to a net and go, there's a bat!
Yeah.
And then comes the fun of trying to untangle it and get it out. They're not always the easiest to untangle. That's the other thing, bats can bite. They tend not to unless you're actually bothering them. And I don't blame them for that, because if someone was bothering me, I'd probably bite them.
Yep, I think that's fair.
But it does mean that, when we're handling them, we have to wear gloves and make sure that they can't get through to the skin.
Yeah.
It does mean that if people find a grounded bat, it's best not to try and use your bare hands. With any wildlife, it's best not to use your bare hands, because most wildlife in that situation will be scared and will try and fight back. But the advice is, if you find a grounded bat that looks like it needs help, just use like a tea towel or something, usher it into a box, put the lid on, keep it somewhere safe, and then call the National Bat Helpline. They'll be able to give you further advice. Yeah,
that's good to know, because it's not something you come across often, but you never know. What's your favourite species of bat? Do you have a favourite species?
It changes.
Okay, yeah.
Usually it's a bat that I've got in my hand at the time. I don't really have a single favourite. I do have a soft spot for the brown long ears, just because they always look like they're smiling.
It is hard to resist that, isn't it, as a human?
It is.
Even if you know that they're not, it's very hard to let your brain understand that they're not somehow,
Oh, there's another quite cool bat fact.
Oh yeah, go on.
So bats, there's 20% of the world's mammal species are bats.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
After rodents, they're the most speciose group of mammals.
Well, now that's extraordinary. And
That
again,
is really cool, isn't it?
that is really cool. You wouldn't necessarily imagine that to be true, would you, unless you knew? Because sort of rodents, you can imagine there's loads of them everywhere. You see mice, rats, all kinds of capybara and beavers and...
Yeah, there's over 1,400 species of bats across the world.
Wow.
And with most species, the main diversity is in the tropics. Obviously up where we are, I mentioned we've only got 18 species.
Yeah.
And to be honest, one of those 18 species, there's only 2 individuals recorded in the UK.
Right.
So I'm always a little bit, can we really count the greater Marcia bat as being a UK species when there's 2?
Yeah. That's hard, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, but in the UK, there are nearly a quarter of our mammal species.
Wow.
So even here, they're actually a sizable proportion
Yeah.
of the species we've got.
So yeah, just definitely wouldn't think that. But I guess in the tropics and things is where you get the bigger bats as well, and they have very different diets, don't they?
Yeah, so all the bats we've got in the UK will eat insects.
Yeah.
But if you look globally, again, most of the bats will eat insects, but you've got some that eat fruit, some that eat nectar and pollen, some of the bigger bats. And the way that Bentons will pick insects off the water, there's some bats that will pick fish out of the water.
Wow, really?
From flight.
Wow. Kind of like osprey.
Bit like that.
Kind of like
bit smaller, but yeah.
Bit smaller, but the same principle.
Same
I suppose.
principle.
Yeah.
And they're doing it at night using echolocation.
I mean, what, through the water?
They can pick up the ripples that the fish make on the surface of the water.
Wow.
Pick them up. It's amazing.
Yeah, that is amazing.
And then, of course, everyone knows of the vampire bats that drink blood.
Yes, yeah.
But there's only 3 species of those, and they're only found in Central and Southern America. So your chances of encountering one are pretty low.
Yeah.
Although, to be fair, I would love to go and see them because they're a fascinating group.
Yeah. And how do they actually drink blood? I mean, it's not in the way that we imagine a vampire does,
it's
it?
not
Is
like
it?
sort of the Dracula bite your neck thing.
No.
No, they tend to. So, of the 3 species, 2 of them prefer birds anyway. So, chickens are a favourite food source.
Wow, you see, and now again, I wouldn't have imagined that.
They'll go and sort of bite the foot.
The foot?
Yeah, they tend to go. Well, there's feathers everywhere else, isn't
there's
there?
no feathers, I suppose. Yeah, that makes sense now I've said that. Yeah.
And their saliva contains enzymes that keep the blood running, stops it coagulating,
Yeah.
and they'll just lap it up.
Wow.
Some of the common vampire bat will go for mammals, normally livestock, so think like cattle.
Yeah, that's where my mind went in terms of that's. I think that's what I've seen in nature documentaries.
Yeah, that's sort of the common vampire species.
Yeah.
So it's the one you mostly see. And they can scurry along the ground, so sort of land, and they can scurry along the ground to get to the animals, because obviously the animals are at ground level.
Yeah, it is fascinating, isn't it? Again, that's a co-evolving, because there are, there's other creatures, insects that do that, aren't they?
You also get birds like the oxpecker.
That's right. Yes, of
Will do that.
course. Yeah.
But the vampire bats are a fascinating group because they have some really strong social dynamics within their groups.
Yeah.
They're one of the few examples we've got where they'll form sort of friendship groups that are not related.
Oh, really? Wow.
So a lot of cases where you see sort of food sharing and mutual stuff in the wildlife, it's related groups.
Yeah.
The vampire bats will do it to unrelated females. So someone's had an unsuccessful foraging night, her friend will sort of regurgitate a bit of food to her.
Wow.
Lets her feed. And then when the reverse happens to the other bat, sort of reciprocate back. And that sort of social side of things is something that people just don't think about with them.
No.
But even in the UK, we've got some evidence that they will form social groups. So we're doing a study with the Bedfordshire Bat group in a woodland where we've been ringing brown long-eared, and the bats do seem to stick to using boxes in different parts of the wood, and the same groups tend to turn up. So one group will use the boxes up in that corner, another group will use boxes over in the opposite corner,
Yeah.
another group will use boxes in the centre. So there's something going on there that
We understand
we're just
so
starting
little.
to understand.
Yeah, as we just, there's so much that we don't understand, I think, as well. And I think a lot of it is because we don't know, as humans, we don't know what we're looking at. We can see that happening, but I mean, it's very hard to know why that's happening. But that is fascinating. I mean, there's definitely something going on there, isn't there?
It's sort of actually for getting the resources and the time and the way to study it to find out what's happening. It's very difficult because we can only pick them up when they're using the boxes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times we don't find them because they're using natural roosting sites, so we've no idea what they're doing then.
Yeah.
It's yeah, everything we do just gets us that little bit more of a glimpse into their world. And yeah, just shows us how many unanswered questions we've still got.
Yeah.
It's all fascinating.
I can see why you find them so interesting. So yeah, thank you so much for taking me on your little scouting mission. It's been really nice to find out all about the bats in our 3 counties and what we're doing with them.
Well, you're more than welcome. I'm always happy to talk about bats to anyone that will stay and listen.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Thanks so much to Gwen for taking me on her scouting mission and for the brilliant bat facts and enthusiasm. If listening to this has sparked your interest in these amazing mammals, there are lots of pictures, recordings of bat calls and onward links to resources, events and opportunities for you to learn more at wildlifebcn.org/podcast. And keep a close eye out for our wildlife training workshop programme for 2026, which is launched in November. It may well include a bat-related workshop. Wink wink. If you're a member of the Wildlife Trust BCN, that programme will be sent out with your winter issue of Local Wildlife in November. Of course, no podcast would be complete without extending a huge thank you to James Williams and Jared Wentwick for the podcast music. If you've enjoyed this episode, do like, subscribe and share with your friends and family, who can listen wherever they get their podcasts just by searching for In Conservation. And finally, let us know what you thought of this episode by dropping us a line from the website or contacting us on social media at Wildlife BCN. But for now, cheerio!